For those who are watching today, many have questions about, is long-term rental property investing right for me? Is flipping houses right for me? Is short-term rental properties, short-term leases like Airbnbs right for me? So for anyone who would like to talk to somebody who has literally done all of that, make sure you fire your questions in for Bill. But Bill, let me just ask you the question. Knowing that you have spent time, money, energy, resources, you made a commitment to each of those. Talk me through maybe the pros and cons. Let's talk about the flipping, because we don't talk a lot about flipping on this show. Maybe what did you learn the most about flipping and pros and cons?
That it's very difficult finding reliable vendors, contractors to do the work for you. And that's one of the reasons why we got out of it. We were having a problem getting commitments and doing quality work. Mm-hmm. And it was taking longer to get the jobs done. And finally, by accident with the Airbnb is how we got out of it. But it was something, we still had houses that instead of flipping, we turned into the Airbnbs. And I wasn't a proponent of I always was into long-term rentals in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That was for ages. Like I said, I worked in property management before, one of the largest companies in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And so I was into long-term management. That was my field.
So the flipping, you saw the profit potential there. The construction work was a real challenge. And it sounds like the level of construction that you needed to do some of these flips was a lot more substantial than what you would need for, let's call it property turns, right? Or turning over the house for the next resident. And so I guess that's what led you to the short-term rentals. Could you talk about the pros and cons of the short-term rentals?
Short-term rentals are profitable, very active in where we are right now because of location. Sorry. The benefits are basically that the houses are busy all the time. I mean, because of location, we're near the University of Florida and consequently Shands and the colleges. So we have people coming in all the time, long-term, short-term. We have 7 of them right now. So, I mean, we have people come for a few months. We have people come for a week or minimum.
They're always maintained.
And they're always maintained. That is one of the things. My boss is talking to me about that.
Probably almost a decade. If she's brave, she'll come on camera too and say,
"Yeah, you got to come off the beach."
She'll come on camera and say hi to Greg. She's in her construction clothes right now.
Yeah, I'm in my
It's been way too long.
Yeah. It's a challenge, let me put it that way. You're dealing with people all the time, coming in, leaving, coordinating. You know, it's a challenge with the Airbnbs. People coming in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, people leaving at 11 o'clock in the morning, getting the houses ready, doing different things, and problems at a house or questions. It's my son basically is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, he takes care of that aspect of it. He's doing very, very good. Where I consequently, my field was cleaning houses, things like that. I have my sister-in-law owns a franchise cleaning service here in Gainesville. And I have other people that work on weekends and do different things for us. So we're able to coordinate that and do the quick turnovers.
So you're built to be active in this type of an investment, right? You've got the family all rallied around it. You've got the resources, you've got the experience. And you also don't have to have that level of construction in order to be in short-term rentals to make it successful. It can be really minor cleanings and maybe a little bit more than cleanings to get it going there for you. And it can't be lucrative, right? It can't be something that can provide additional rental income. But it would seem to me that it'd just be fair to say you got to go in with eyes wide open, knowing that it's going to be additional work. And if that is what you are built to do, it can be a great thing. If you're going into it thinking that it's going to be like long-term rentals and as passive as maybe your intention would be, you're probably going to be a little bummed about that component specifically. Would you agree?
Definitely, because Airbnb has different classifications. We are super hosts because you have to have a certain rating, and we have that higher rating. And to maintain it, you basically have to take care of people and your houses have to be in good shape and handle problems and do that, because if you get bad reviews, it lowers your rating. And if you're not a super host, you get lower, your houses come up lower on when they're looking for houses on the internet for those that are on Airbnb for that. So consequently, to maintain the super host, you're constantly on your toes to take care of problems and help people out, so.
Bill, we got some questions flying in from our community here about the experience. If you don't mind me peppering in
Sure.
here,
Okay.
Lee Bishop, reigning MVP of the Not Your Average Investor Show community. Lee Bishop asks, Bill, how much work do you have to put into the houses in the Airbnb to turn it over? Is it more or less intensive than in long-term renting?
Week to week, month to month, you're constantly keeping up with it. Where on the long term, where I was used to, we used to once a year we renew leases. Thank God. With Jacksonville Wealth Builders, it's every 2 to 3 years because that is a major cost involved. So ours is on a short-term basis. And if you have the Airbnbs, you have the people to assist you in turning those over. It's not so bad. Especially to give you an example, we just turned a house over with Jacksonville Wealth Builders. 2 weeks, it was turned over back on the market again and rented.
The funny thing is, Bill, we've been working together so long that I know what Jacksonville Wealth Builders is, but many people here aren't familiar with Jacksonville Wealth Builders. Of course, you can probably put it together here as JWB. But yeah, that was our original name of our company back in the day. And then we just realized that it was such a mouthful to say. And our email addresses used to end in jacksonvillewealthbuilders.com. Try typing that out times, 50 people that we had on staff.
I forgot about, to be honest, it's been so long.
It's been a while. You know what? Yeah. Whenever you start a company, you rebrand at least 2, 3, a dozen times, just figure it out.
Yeah. I'm going on 2 right now, and I'm only a year and a half in. So, Bill, Eddie Harris from Hotlanta has another question here. Is there any difference in tax structure on rentals versus Airbnb?
Yes, there is. And that's why we have a CPA that handles them, because of course, they're handled differently. And I'm not an accountant. Yeah, there is, and you'd have to look into it. There's advantages to both of them, but the long-term rental, I prefer the long-term compared to the Airbnb, which
there are additional taxes that are imposed when you have it under a certain number of days, when your leases are under a certain number of days. And I can't remember right off the bat what that is, whether that's 6 months or 3 months. I can't remember. But if you have short-term rentals, there's additional taxes that you want to factor in to the investment overall. So what you're going to hear a lot of from the short-term rentals is the gross rent that you collect is far and above the gross rent is far and above. Whoa. All right. You know what? Got a new studio here. I think it's all changing, all that good stuff. There we go. You know what? We're in the game. That's what we do here on live TV.
The counties are starting to add taxes also on top of it. Definitely, each county individually is starting to add additional taxes that are, adversely affecting what your profitability is. And then you have the state taxes also. So it's getting to be a little different management. Plus, municipalities are starting to invoke some length of stay.
Yeah, that's another thing. So in my community where I live, you can't do short-term rentals. They must be longer than 3-month stays. And so you'll hear this a lot. I was researching San Francisco. They have a lot of rules in San Francisco that would prevent folks from doing short-term housing Airbnbs like you would in many other places. Like, for example, you can only rent out a house for Airbnb short-term rentals if it is your primary home. And I think there's a maximum number of days that you could rent it out if you're not there as well. So especially in some of these municipalities, you want to make sure that you know the rules and the tax consequences, because that'll take away from the gross.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And John Tennyson also here in the Q&A writes that 12% resort taxes for rentals in under 6 months and a day as well. And John also has a question for you, Bill. He asks, Bill, would you recommend to partner with someone in remodeling businesses for flips?
Yes, if you have the right people. That's the main thing, is finding the right partner that you can work with. We had someone that was working with us for a little while, and it just didn't work out, which consequently hurt us in our field. The whole thing is the coordinating it, amongst the two of you or whatever the groups that you're working with. If you could do it, it's excellent. But otherwise, it could be very nerve-wracking, I guess, or whatever. We haven't had any problems recently, though, doing it.